everybody. So I've had quite a few people asking me how I prepare my discs for doing art with. So I'm going to both go over that as well as show you guys some of the rare colors of discs that I have found over the years. A very rare color I found is red. This is the only one I've ever found, which is seriously cool in my opinion. A lot of people have heard of black discs, which is also relatively rare. I don't really use these in my art very much, but they're super cool to look at anyways. They are. You can also get them in dark gray. There's several different shades of sort of purple disc available too. Lighters, darkers, pinkiers. There's like very dark purple ones. There's very dark blue. And then there's a lighter blue, sort of a greenish blue. Then it goes in sort of greenish silver, as well as just regular silver. And then the silver discs come in sort of yellowier silvers and just plain simple silver. And then another really rare color is gold. I haven't found very many of these either. Regardless, I'm going to walk you through some of the different types of discs, give you a little bit of information about them, let you know how I prepare them for art. I'm going to go over with the plain and simple silver first. These just don't actually require any preparation work at all. They're going to cut just fine. I use the DVD discs, so these ones are both DVDs. I like to use the DVD discs for things that I need to get really good details with. This is already a bad example. You can see it's gotten really crispy. That's not going to cut very good. There, this one is cutting nice and smooth. So you can see that you're going to get a nice clean line with that. This is the best disc I have if I'm going to try and cut out a specific kind of shape. So say I wanted to cut out like a circle or something. This is the easiest thing you're going to find for cutting into a specific shape. Any other kind of silver, you just really can't get certain shapes out of. Silver DVD discs is the easiest way to do that. You're going to find that silver discs that are CDs, they also don't require any preparation work to make them cut better, but they're going to be a lot crispier than the DVDs. The lines are never going to be as good. You're going to have a lot of splitting happening. When I cut these guys, I usually just go right to the middle, cut out that center bit. Then I actually do a couple cuts just along the line, not all the way through. And at this point, I actually just snap them apart. It saves me some cutting and it gives me some more unpredictable shapes rather than having them be as crunchy. And you find that when I split them like this, it's less likely to have a really crispy, crunchy line. Where I've cut, you can see that there's a lot of splitting that has happened. But where I snap it, it's a nice clean line. So I try to use the clean line wherever possible. So with the CDs, I always cut through to the middle, get rid of that center part, and then snap them apart to get them a bit cleaner of a line, which works really well for them. There's going to be a lot of exceptions to the rule. There's going to be DVDs that cut just as crispy as the CDs do, and there'll be some CDs that probably cut as clean and nice as the DVDs do. There's always exceptions to the rules. The DVDs also, back to them. The CDs are just one layer. The DVDs are usually in 2 layers. Occasionally I'll have a DVD piece, this is back to the DVD piece, that I want to split apart on purpose in order to get sort of a cleaner look to the disc. It's risky because it often just breaks the disc altogether and it gets ruined. But sometimes you're able to get the 2 layers separated and have sort of just the bottom bit which is cleaner underneath. It's a bit of a gamble always. You get a bit of a cleaner silver underneath, a little bit more rainbow, a little bit less distraction from the rainbow casting effect when you can successfully split a DVD disc. But it is definitely risky. It doesn't always work out that way. Okay, so that's the silver. The next thing I'm going to show you is the sort of greenish discs. So these ones, I'm going to show you what it looks like to cut one of them without preparing the disc first. When you go to cut one of these and you haven't prepared your disc, what you're going to find is that you get a lot of flaky edges that just come right off, and you're not going to want that in your art. And you get a ton of little crispy bits where you don't want it stuck in your resin and stuff. It's very important to prepare these kind of discs. They come in a plastic layer and a paper layer. To prepare them before I start trying to cut them, it's pretty simple. All I do is I take some like a book protector and make sure that I coat the back side of them in a layer of book protector. I have already done that on this disc here that I'm about to show you, and you're going to see that once you've done a layer of book protector onto the back of them, you don't have that really crispy edge that you have without preparing them. So you don't have to worry about layers chipping off anymore. It's very important to put a layer of tape or book protector behind your disc before you work with them, and then you get a nice easy clean cut, which is just perfect. You can cut specific shapes out of these fairly easily. The tricky thing you're going to find is that the paper layer wants to lift off, so even if you have put a layer of tape onto the back of these, it separates really easily, and if the paper layer comes off of the front, then both pieces are kind of useless, because this is this flimsy paper and this is so see-through that you can't really get a nice looking art out of it. So usually I don't try to get smaller pieces or specific shapes out of the slightly greenish ones. I save those mostly for the DVD pieces that cut really nicely. You're going to find the same rule applies for discs that are blue. It's the same as the green ones. Both of these have a paper layer and they have a hard plastic layer. These are the blue ones that have a paper layer and a plastic layer. So that's it for green. I guess another thing to mention about green, even when you have prepared them, sometimes they're just really flaky and the back wants to come off no matter what. That's pretty normal with the green ones. I sometimes use a little bit of clear tape to reattach the pieces so that I can save it. But if it comes apart, it's really just kind of useless. The purple discs, I also like to put a little bit of book protector on the back of these. What happens with these when you don't put a layer of tape on the back of them? They get quite crispy too. Not as bad as the green ones do, but they sometimes have little bits of paper or a little bit of plastic that just flakes right off. This one's not really doing it. Well, I guess a little bit. You can see in this corner that it does want to sort of come off a little bit more than if you put a little layer of tape on it too. The purple discs you're going to find come in 2 layers as well. They have a see-through layer on top and then sort of a iridescent lovely layer underneath. I sometimes split these discs on purpose and sometimes I keep them together. It's kind of a preference thing. If you use just the layer underneath and put that in resin, it often gets sort of a pinky look to it, whereas if you keep them together, it stays more purple. There's a use for both sides of these. This doesn't work really well in art, but I found other uses for just the clear bit. Sometimes I want that pinkier look of just the bottom. This one didn't really get as crispy as they often do. They sometimes chip quite severely without a layer of the book protector on them. I still put the book protector on the back of them just to prevent any excess of shipping from happening. It is not always something you need to do, but it's just a nice precaution to have neater, nice edges. This one wasn't a very good example. Sometimes it's a lot crispier on the edges without protection than this one was. I'm going to show you one other variety of purple. Let me just grab it for you. Something that's rarely going to happen to you when you get purple is when you go to cut them, you're going to have them split apart in a very unique way. I love it when they do this. Let's see if I found one that is the right version. When I go to split layers, instead of having a layer that has the shiny on it, you actually get a layer that's just complete garbage. But then you have a really nice look on both sides of your disc. This is not something that happens often. This is quite rare. I love to use these pieces for things that I'm going to need to be able to see both sides of, which doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, it's really nice to have the option of being able to see both sides. I use these in my resin creatures rather than like my bird baths or flat art, because the flat art you only see one side of anyway, versus some of my resin creatures where you want to be able to see both sides. This doesn't happen often. If you find a disc like this, I set it aside and save it for something that you need to see both sides for. When you get one of these, it's also really good at doing the same thing that the DV does, where you can make just amazing, easily shapes out of it, which it cuts even easier than the DVDs do as far as like getting a precise shape. It's a rare find. Whenever I find one of these, I put it aside and save it for something unique. I guess that's pretty much all the disc preparation. Some of these really rare colors, I haven't had the pleasure of finding out what they do. I'm guessing the red one is probably a paper layer as well as a hard plastic layer. This is clearly just one layer. It would cut really nicely. The dark silver ones I've found sometimes have a paper layer, but they're more likely to be sort of like the purple ones where they have a plastic layer and a shiny layer. The darkest purple ones often have a paper layer underneath rather than having the two usable layers. Blues always have paper layer and a plastic layer that you don't want to separate. Gold ones, I think, have a paper layer and a clear layer, just like the greenish ones do and the blue ones. That's basically it for how I prep my discs and why. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know. And thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, bye for now.